Hey, welcome to our shop just outside Kennesaw here in North Georgia. Well, today's project is this Empire style buffet. As you can see, it's it needs a lot of work. I believe this was picked out of a barn or maybe a cellar where it had been stored for years, and it's got some structural issues, it's got a lot of cosmetic issues, and as far as the finish goes, other than the top, which is completely destroyed, I'm just not sure what's under all this dirt, mold, and mildew. And if we can save this old finish, I'd sure like to try. So you're going to come along with me as we clean this up and start to fix it up, and then eventually decide how we're going to refinish it so it can find a new home and maybe another 100 years of good service. So stay with us. Here we go. And the first thing we're going to do, because I know I will catch my leg on this, is get this nail out of here. What do you say we get rid of some of the spider webs? I think that's a good idea. And we're looking down into the cabinet. This would be the bottom drawer cavity, and we've got it pretty well cleaned out. Up here where the two doors are, you can see the interior structure of the cabinet's in pretty good shape. The only issue I found is right here, and it looks like at some time there was probably a rodent that was trying to eat his way out, but it doesn't smell of rodent urine at all, so who knows what happened there. It's time to get scrubbing. I've got a solution of Dawn dishwashing detergent, trisodium phosphate, and some bleach, and let's see how it does when we start to clean the side of this cabinet off. Well, that looks a little better. Okay, here it is all cleaned up. There's the back. It's got a label, Tate Furniture Company, High Point, North Carolina. And people, you know that High Point, North Carolina was and still is one of the furniture centers here in the U.S. And let's open this up and blow out the last of the dust and set her inside to dry. And we're looking inside the main drawer, and you can see we've got separation of an entire ply of the veneer to the drawer front. And if you come around back, this is the drawer bottom, and it's made of a solid piece of wood, and it's nailed flush with the back of the drawer. And because the grain runs this way, it's shrunk, and now it's no longer big enough to cover the bottom of the drawer. So that's going to have to be replaced. And then we have all this that needs to be cleaned off. Okay, let's get to it. For those of you interested in the construction of this piece, machine cut dovetails here, box joints down on the bottom. Give you an idea how long this veneer has been apart. Hopefully you can see in there, it's just loaded with dust. So it's been years. And this last drawer has felt remnants in it It's probably glued in. I don't know if it was floxing, or my guess would be just a sheet of green felt that was put in there and glued in. And what I'm going to do is just try to scrape some of this out. That's what we got out of there. And there's the inside of the drawer. All right, let me get this one cleaned up. And there it all is. It's all clean. Boy, did she need it. Probably one of the dirtiest pieces of furniture I've ever dealt with. But there's our 3 drawers. There's our cabinet. See, the inside's nice and clean. The top, which is completely worn. Monstrous pieces of missing veneer on the top. It'll have to be dealt with. But it looks a whole lot better without all that mildew and barn dirt on it. So it's getting a little late in the day, so I thought before I leave I'd like to glue up this interior portion of the veneer in this drawer. And we've got this cleaned out the best we can, and we're just going to shoot a ton of glue in here because there's a lot of peeled back veneer that needs to get coated. Okay, get a wet rag and wipe up some of the glue, squeeze out, let that set overnight, and I think we got that taken care of. It's been a good day. See you tomorrow. Bye. Let's take off these clamps and see how we did. If you remember what a gap we had here, this entire piece of the plywood laminate had peeled away and was filled with dust. It's down nice and tight now. It looks just like it did when it was new. Well, maybe not new, but okay, let's move on to something else. And real quick, before I forget, this piece does have a mirrored bracket that mounts on the back of it. I had it in the shop yesterday, late last night. I actually worked late last night. I took the mirror out. That needs to be re-silvered. And this piece is in the same condition as the other one was, or as the base was, and it's going to need to be completely refinished. But just so you know, we do have this piece and we will be working on it. I'm going to try to get you in here so you can see this veneer repair, because that's the next step in this project. You can see we're missing veneer here, here, it's split all the way to there. What I try to do is come up with a triangular shape if I have to, because I think it blends better. And then I just take a straight edge and draw a line, give myself a mark. It's an interesting issue. We have a nail in the substrate right under the veneer, and what happens when the nails rust, they kind of rust jack, you know, they swell, and it helps lift and damage the veneer, so we're going to have to countersink that in. You can see right here where we've got some missing substrate right at the corner. You just can't lay veneer over that. That veneer is not going to have anything supporting it from underneath, and it's going to fail. So what I'm going to do is take some epoxy putty, which you've seen me use before, mix it up and make sure that all of our veneer is nice and level on all 3 of our repairs. Okay, when I template for a veneer repair, what I'll normally do is put a piece of blue tape over the area and kind of trace out the area with my thumbnail, and then mark it with a pencil, always marking the grain orientation and the edges. And I tend to cut my edges oversized just as a safety precaution. Then we'll take my template off, line the grain direction up with my veneer, and then cut along the lines, and there's my patch. And I've done that already. And here's the patch that we're going to put in. And I hope you can see that it's not thick enough. The existing veneer is thicker, and that's not unusual for older veneer. So the solution to that is just to cut another piece. And this one doesn't have to be so accurate or be as nice looking. And then glue them together, and you can see now that we're flush across here. Okay, using hide glue, we're going to put these veneer patches in. Just like that, 3 more to go. It's working on a rather large veneer patch where we had a number of pieces of veneer fail on the side, and when we got the veneer off, you could see this huge split right here in the substrate that had caused the veneer to fail. So what we need to do is get this down nice and tight, and then I'll fill this in with epoxy putty. Then we'll have a nice stable piece of substrate to glue our veneer on. And I've done some probing with a knife, and this piece is loose. So we're going to have to get some glue under there to get that glued back down, or the veneer is just going to fail again. And when that glue hardens up, I will take the clamps off and fill this crack in before I lay a new veneer patch on. Okay, you're looking at the back of one of the legs. I want to show you how I test to find out what kind of finish this is. I suspect it's shellac. As you know, the solvent for shellac is denatured alcohol. I just put some denatured alcohol on here, and I'm rubbing it, and you can see the finish is coming up. So this is the original shellac finish. It's in terrible shape, and it has to come off. So with the exception of that one large veneer patch, it'll go in the same way. I'd say we've got all the veneer work done on this cabinet. The next step is to strip it, and we'll do that tomorrow. I'll see you back at the shop tomorrow morning. Been a good day. Thanks. Good morning. Let's take out these clamps and see how we did. There's a number of ways you can trim back the veneer patch, the overhanging portion of the veneer patch. The challenge is always going cross grain. It's much easier to go with the grain, it just peels off. But anyways, you can use a scalpel, you can use a veneer saw, you can use a sharp razor blade, you can use a sharp chisel. Whatever strikes your fancy for that day. Let's score it with the scalpel. Look at that, it's going right through. There you go, just like that. Okay, on these patches, because I've doubled the thickness, I cross-grain them, so they're not going to rip as easily as they normally would. So let's go back to the scalpel and see how we do with that. With just a little bit of sanding, you can see that how that repair came out. That repair there. And this one here. Of course, the whole top is going to get sanded. This one hasn't, I haven't even sanded this one yet. The whole top is going to get stripped and sanded. So, and once we got the door off and had a chance to take a good look at the inside, we found it needed some veneer repairs as well. So we did those exactly the same way. If you remember correctly, the bottom of this main drawer, it's too short, and we've got to get it out and put another piece in there. I've just been looking at this, and this is held in as it should be with some brads, but someone's gone ahead and glued it. So what I've been doing is working knives in there, breaking the glue joint, and if you look at the drawer bottom, you can see it's in fact plywood. I had initially thought it was solid wood, but no, it's plywood. You can always just take a heavy-duty scraper if you're in a hurry. You know, get it worked in so it's resting on the brad, and just give it a whack with a hammer, and it'll either cut the nail or pull it right out for you. But we'll get these off. Here we go. And these nails have broken off, just slightly proud of the drawer back. I can't grab them and pull them out, so we're just going to countersink them where they will stay for all eternity. Something's been bothering me right along about why this drawer bottom wasn't fitting right. I initially thought that it was because it was solid wood. But once I started working on it, I realized it was plywood. And it appears to be original. And it wouldn't have been cut, normally would have been cut short from the factory. So I took measurements of the inside of the drawer, added the dados, and then measured the back of the, or measured the bottom of the drawer, and the measurements were correct. So I was confused, and then I realized what had happened. The back piece here of the drawer has buckled, and I don't know if you can see how much movement is in there. But it's probably 1/4 to 1/2 inch buckled in the center. And when this was put together with glue, what happened is when this rose up, probably because it got wet, it just took the drawer bottom with it, because it's not attached in any of these 3 dados as you saw when I slid it out. So the drawer bottom is the right size, and there's no sense in me cutting another one because I'd cut it to the exact same size. And I would, you know, obviously I wouldn't cut the drawer bottom to match this hump in this piece. That would be silly. So I think the proper fix, now I've got this drawer bottom back in where it belongs. I think the proper fix is to put this in with brads, and I'll attach it maybe here, 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 and here, and I'm going to let this float free rather than pull it back any tighter. And if there's any movement in the back, the brads on the end should support it and keep this piece from pulling that drawer bottom back out. And of course this gap is going to be inside the cabinet in the bottom drawer, and nobody's ever going to see it, and it's not going to be problematic in any way, shape, or form. And that will allow us to leave the original bottom on the cabinet and not have it pull out the way it did. So let me get my brad nailer out. I'm going to pop a couple of brads in this, and I think we'll have this fixed. But this is what caused that drawer bottom to pop out, and we've got that riddle solved. I measured the thickness of the drawer back. It's not 3/4 of an inch, it's probably 3/8 of an inch or 1/4. So what I did is, using my compass, is I estimated the center of the back, and then I used it as a scribe and scribed the line all the way across here so I know where to shoot. And because it's so thin, I'm going to use staples because each one will give me 2 points of fastening. I know to you purists on an antique, someone shooting staples in the drawer, that's not normally what I would do, but this is kind of a unique fix, and I want to make sure that this drawer bottom stays where it's supposed to. And if anybody's ever got to take this drawer bottom apart, it's easy to pop those staples out. So using my lines, and there we go. You can see how that's going to hold that fast. Okay, let me get the rest of these in. Okay, you can see the staples are in. They're nice and flush. I know they look like they're sticking out, but they're not. So we're able to get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them in this drawer. The drawer back still has the ability to spring up and down. And we're looking now at the back of the drawer. And the other fix that we could use, but I try to avoid it if I can, is to put a piece of molding in the drawer here and then shoot up from underneath it and then shoot in. And that's another way of holding it. And that's kind of a last resort. But the way we have it now, if anybody ever has to take this drawer bottom off, they just pull those staples out and the drawer bottom will slip right out. They don't have to worry about popping moldings out and dealing with all the nails sticking and everything. So I think we've got that licked. We save ourselves cutting up a piece of plywood. So this drawer is ready to go. So let's keep moving forward. Okay, I'm pretty sure we've got all the repairs taken care of. So it's time to start to strip the finish off this old girl. We'll start with this mirror frame and work our way to the cabinet. I use methylene chloride stripper. I use the liquid stuff. You could use paste, you could use citrus strip, whatever you're comfortable with. Methylene chloride can be toxic if it builds up, so you want to make sure you have good ventilation. Just follow the instructions on the can. What I do is apply it, it'll bubble the finish or soften the finish. You can then take it off with a scraper. I use a plastic one right here and finish up with some steel wool. And then when it's stripped, I follow up with lacquer thinner and steel wool to get the last of the remnants off, and then I water rinse it to neutralize the stripper, and then I'm done. So I'll show you just a little bit of what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to turn the camera off and get to work, because when I get this stuff on my hands, I don't like to handle the camera because I'm going to break it. See, I just put it on, and right away it's taking this up. This thin shellac finish is just coming right up. So this is going to be a very easy strip job. Tedious but easy. I hope you can see that. Grab a rag. And that's it. Okay, let me get suited up and get to work, and I'll bring you back. Well, it took 2.5 hours for me to strip this entire piece. Lacquer, wipe it off with lacquer thinner, and then water rinse it to neutralize the stripper. It's going to sit in the shop overnight to dry. Here's one of the doors. What I learned by stripping it is that I believe the original finish was golden oak, which was a popular finish there around the turn of the century. And then somewhere along the line, someone put another coat of shellac over it, and that shellac was heavily colored, really very close to black. And it was, there were runs all over the inside of the cabinet and things. We got them taken care of. The mirror brackets over here, that's taken care of. And I've got one veneer repair that I want to do on one of the doors. With all the liquid that hits these and the chemicals, if there's loose veneer, it'll get under it and it usually buckles it up. So I've got an edge I want to re-glue. But that's going to be it for part one. We'll do part two. We'll sand this, and then we will stain it and top coat it and get it on its way home. So listen, from our shop just outside Kennesaw here in North Georgia. Best regards, thanks for watching, take good care, and remember, it's just wood color and some shiny stuff, and that darkness you see on the corner of the cabinet, that's just some water, it'll dry right up. We'll see you in part two. Thanks, bye.